Morning, Wayno.
Morning, Phil.
And morning to all you people out there in YouTube land. Welcome to another adventure here on DB Adventures. Now, some of you, if you go back to episode 1, may remember that we headed out to Clarence River Gorge because the desert was flooded. Well, this venture, that's where we're headed. We're going out to the desert, except for one thing. What happened?
The Part1 River is flooded. Again.
We are not going to the desert. So, we decided to head a little bit further north this time. Still going west, but a little bit further north and dodge a little bit of the rains. Queensland's had a lot of rain lately. So there's a lot of places that have been shut down, and some of the places we're going have only just recently opened up. But we're not actually sure how we're going to go, so we're hoping places stay open. We don't know if we're going to get more rain. So this time we decided to call our adventure Winging It Way Out West, because we are literally winging it from day to day. We got a rough plan. Hope it all works out, but you never know. So this trip we've got the Extreme Nomads back for a guest appearance. They'll be tagging along. We've also got your missus and your youngest daughter.
Yep, so no playing up for Wayno.
No playing up for Wayno, and I guess that means me too, because my missus is all coming along for the ride as well. So
we have to behave.
Or just not get caught doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway. We've got a few Ks to do today. We're here at a nice campground starting on the tour. We've got to get out of this place. It took us a little bit to get in here yesterday. We've got to head further west. So the adventure really starts when we get to our next destination. It's going to take us a few hours. So we've got to pretty much get up, head that way, and see how we go. See how our winging it turns out. So we can pack up and off we go, eh?
Let's go and wing it.
Finish this cuppa first. Now before we make our way out of here, let's just go back and have a look at the road into this pretty cool little campsite.
Well, that was the road into our campsite yesterday. Today, the track out is just a little more entertaining.
Bit slower.
Been on that right side and travelling that.
While this track is not super technical, there are a few spots that can catch you out if you're not paying attention. Too close to the edge here, and the side can cave in, swallowing your forward drive and giving the passenger a whole new outlook on life. may have noticed by now that the extreme nomads have downsized their accommodation for this trip. Apparently, travelling with Wayno and I calls for something a little smaller and more manoeuvrable than the caravan. Not sure what they're talking about, really.
Just try and keep your tyres on the high sides of the ruts. Yep.
Here we are, just navigating the extreme nomads up. It's not too bad, but it's just a little bit tricky for them, that's all, but perfect. Look at this.
The 16-kilometre track out is not a very difficult one. It's just simply a nice four-wheel drive only track. However, the scenery it leads us to is absolutely spectacular.
When you're close to me, I'm feeling high when I'm low. I'm feeling high when I'm low. I'm feeling you. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out.
Seat now. We're down in the back streets. Hayley has got her learner's permit and got quite a few hours up her sleeve, so she decided she wanted to have a drive. It's the first time she's actually driven the patrol with a trailer, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, there she is. I won't disturb her while she's driving. So far so good. Mind you, I've only done 10 metres, but so far so good.
while Hales gets her driving hours up, we headed further and further west, leaving the mountain country behind and into the vast open plains. This is what I call big sky country, where the sky just seems to be endless. Cameras will never do it justice, and it's one of those things you just have to see for yourself. Today would see us travel around 650 kilometres over 8 hours, and the landscape just continually changes. One moment we're in low scrubby country with mountain ranges way out in the distance, and before you know it, those mountain ranges are right in front of us, and crossing over the top reveals even more open plains. This is the heart of the big cattle stations, where properties measure in the hundreds of thousands of acres, and the recent rains have had a tremendous impact on the landscape. Right now, we are travelling in the middle of spring. That, combined with those rains, means the outback has come alive. Green trees, fresh grasses, and an abundance of wildflowers has not only created a picturesque scenery, but has allowed animal populations to thrive. Fat cattle with healthy calves, emus with young chicks in tow, eastern grey and red kangaroos, so many birds, and more lizards than you can poke a stick at. In fact, lizards were the standout feature on this leg of the trip. We can't drive more than about 50 metres without seeing at least one bearded dragon, and there are literally hundreds of them. And so after driving for 8 hours, and as the day draws to a close, we finally pull into the campsite, which will be our home for the next few days.
Yeah, it's all pretty flat, and I reckon it's a good area down here if you want to come down and have a look. Yeah, sounds good enough.
Here's a little tip. When you get into camp late at night and all your stuff's frozen, we sort of cryovac stuff so it ends up a bit flat. But when we get into camp, we get a bit of water in a bowl, and sitting in here in the engine bay, the old TD42, we just chuck that bowl of water in there and thaw it out. So it thaws out really quickly. Just shut the bonnet, leave it in there for about an hour, and away you go. Dinner is almost served. Our campsite is amongst what remains of an old mustering site that once formed part of a large cattle station that was started here way back in 1919. These distinctive stake fence stockyards are dotted all through this property. pretty hard to imagine just what life would have been like in this very isolated area back in 1919, which is when a bloke called Herbert packed up his wife, 3 kids, and moved them all out to this 45,000 hectare piece of the outback, just to try and make a living out of cattle farming. Countryside around here at the moment is absolutely awesome. They've had so much rain. This place was sort of shut down. You couldn't get in here. All the roads were closed up until recently, but because of the rain and flooding. But now it is so green. There's flowers out everywhere. There's baby kangaroos, baby emus, the bird life. Everything's just come alive. We're now at the end of September, almost October, so just really sort of getting into the nitty-gritty of spring, and it just shows out here. The green grass contrasting against the red soil is just phenomenal. It's a pretty stunning landscape at the moment, and probably don't get to see it like this too often. I'm thinking we're pretty lucky. So this here is the old homestead. So where we camped last night and where we are at the moment is an old station property. I think they were here right up until around the 60s or 70s, and I'm not sure when it actually started, but definitely around the 20s, if not before. We'll have a look at some stockyards, because there's old stockyards that were built around in the 1920s, and this is what's left of the old homestead, which isn't a lot. They believe the actual house was sitting right here with all the bits with the old shingles, the old walls and a bit of fencing and all sorts of stuff. Not much left of it now. But Wayno and I love crawling around these old homestead sites and always just seeing what you can find, and as typical with everything, it's full of glass bottles, crockery, all the remnants of stuff that they didn't get rid of when they brought it in.
Just looking around here and around the old bottle can dump, etc., and found this old lantern in the tree. So looks like it's had a few repairs done on it. It's been here for a few years.
As also, as I was saying, the bottles, glass around the place. Whenever you find an old homestead, you always find the bottle dump, which is pretty much as it sounds, where they dumped all their rubbish. Mostly back then it was bottles and cans and tins and stuff like that. Certainly no plastic in the old days. And always fun to have a bit of a scrounge because you actually never know what you're going to find in them. Not just bottles and cans. Sue here's just found a 303 shell, and quite often if you look at the head stamp on the 303 shell, you'll see what era it's from. And this one here is, I don't know if we can see it or not, but it actually says 1941. So a 303 shell from 1941. So puts around, I think, the middle of the era that this station stood. But as you can see here, this is what I'm talking about, bottle dumps. Glass, crockery, cans. There's stuff everywhere. The more you go through it, the more you see. A good telling sign of an old bottle, just how thick the glass used to be. These days, with glass manufacturers trying to cut costs, the glass gets thinner and thinner, and not like the old days where they made them to last. There we go, small bottle, thick glass. This one in here, again, thick bases. And some of them even have nice patterns in. I'm fairly certain, I think it was around the 20s or 30s where they started to experiment with putting patterns in. I could be a little bit wrong with that, but usually when you find the early 1900s or late 1800s sort of sites, the glass was still blown. Essentially, they weren't moulded, so they were pretty rough and ready, the old bottles. Whereas when you start seeing them really nicely formed, that's where they've been put in moulds, and that was later on in life. But, yeah, keep looking around, see what else we can find in here.
Cattle yards. Interesting. I personally have no idea what this was for, but Phil might be able to fill in the spaces later.
Well, Wayno, if I didn't know any better, I would say it looks a bit like a small furnace used for heating and shaping horseshoes. Maybe. Behind the old homestead is a track leading away from the site, and you honestly could not call yourself an explorer if you weren't just a little bit curious to see where it went. So, follow it we did. This here would have been an old water storage for something, boiler or something. Back in the day, before they welded anything, it was all riveted. Made up in sections, sealed and riveted. And, quite often they used to use melted lead to seal it. But, yeah, they don't make them like that anymore, that's for sure. grassy plains. Rock the grassy plains. Yeah, landscape around here changes pretty quickly. I can tell you now, nothing teaches a man kung fu quicker than walking through one of these spider webs. Out in the bush, you get to hear all sorts of animal noises. Listen carefully and see if you can identify this one. That's right, that was the mating call of a tall streakus upsetus bellii.
All these big rocks, amazing. And the best part about this place so far is there's no graffiti, because we are a fair way out and all the graffiti artists are still back in the city wrecking everything else. But this is great, there's no litter, there's no graffiti. It's just still all natural.
Now most people would have heard of Wave Rock in Western Australia. Well, this is Queensland's version.
People travel a lot of k's to go and see Wave Rock, and we've only travelled not even half as far.
Yep, it's a very isolated place in Queensland. Only a couple of thousand k's away from home. Well, I was just wondering how these sort of shapes form, and I mean we're pretty high up, so it's not from water rushing through here like a river or anything like that. It's usually the water running down from the top and runs down, and all the soil underneath, all that rock that used to be soil, is a lot softer at the bottom than it is at the top. So as the water runs down, it starts washing out, and then slowly just sort of curls around the rock, around the hard part, and washes out the soft part. You can see the change in colour, and that's where you can tell it's softer down the bottom and a lot harder up top. That's generally, as far as I understand it, how these things form over millions of years. Pretty awesome. Like I said, these rock formations are pretty high up. We're in trouble if this place floods.
Tell you what, if I was a rock wallaby, I'd like to live here too. As you can see, there's droppings here, so obviously there's a resident that lives here. And if you look out that way, look at the view. People pay millions of dollars for views like this, and the rock wallaby that lives here gets it for free.
We quite often get questioned about where we are. Sometimes we even cop flack on YouTube about not saying where we go, and you know, these people sort of want to find out where we are and go to these places, which is fair enough. There's a couple of main reasons why we don't often say this is where we are on the map, and one of the first reasons, and I've touched on this briefly in our last video, was that discovering a place. When you think of yourself as a bit of an adventurer, you don't want people to say this is where you are or this is where you can go, and you know, here's some photos, this is what you're going to see, and you end up just knowing the whole place before you get there. And that was pretty true with places like Cape York. You think about the Teletrack. Now, I went up to the Teletrack in 2014, and I could tell you the name of every single creek and exactly how to get across it when we got there, and I'd never been there before. And that sort of takes that whole experience out of finding those things out. So I know it changes and that sort of thing, but to be honest, it doesn't change a hell of a lot from year to year, that it's completely different, you know. So I like to try and keep that sort of experience for anyone else. If you want to spend the time looking for a place and working out where to go, and then you go there, you travel, and then you find amazing places like this, and no one's ever shown you before. That's discovery. That's what it's all about. That's what that adventure's all about, which is one of the big reasons why we just don't say where we are. There's always bits and pieces of clues and stuff, so you might work it out. Now, the other thing is, I spend a lot of time researching, trying to find places, and there's very little information, and for good reason. And so it's just a snippet and go, okay, this might be somewhere I want to sort of suss out and see what's there. And because of that, not a lot of other people know that these places are around either. And you get here, and as Wayne touched on earlier, there's no graffiti here. There's no rubbish here. There's no signs of toilet paper here. And it's just because of the amount of people that come here, which is very few. And those that do find these places and do work it out and do that research are generally the people that really want to look after the place as well. So, two big reasons as to why we don't sort of divulge where we are. But we do want to show you that these places exist, and if you spend the time, and you will find them, and you'll appreciate it just as much as we do.
Now, is there a place somewhere, Phil, that's called Balancing Rock? Because I think I just found it.
No matter where you go in Australia, there's always a balancing rock. And they never cease to amaze you as to how they do not fall over and roll down that hill. But someday, I guess it will. But they won't. Let's not make it today, eh?
Okay.
I think some people might get upset if we make it today. Yeah, we'll leave this one a bit be. So as we leave the rock to watch over the valley for a bit longer yet, we start finding our way back to the Forbies, contemplating our own ability to balance in this landscape. Treacherous countryside.
Crikey. Nearly didn't hit me.
People that know me closely know I'm really into my bush tucker, and something I've had a fascination for since I was a kid. And I like it when I come across patches of things that I actually recognise. I'm certainly no expert, but there are certain things that I do recognise. And this here's the old ruby saltbush. This one's a small example, but they have tiny little red berries. They generally go a little bit bigger than that once the bush gets a little bit bigger. But it's a nice plant. One's still a bit raw, but they should fruit, I think, a little bit later. They're starting to come on now, just starting to fruit up, so they'll be ripe in a couple more months. But I am seeing that all around through here, and this is generally the areas you find it. So it's always good to know what you can eat when you're wherever you're exploring. Yeah, see if we can find something else. On the way back to camp, we certainly did come across an opportunity to find some more tucker, and it had to do with this small lagoon. Got more signs of bush tucker out here, just by this little lagoon. And these things are a mussel, the old, same as your mud mussels I suppose from on the coast, but these are a freshwater mussel, and same thing, can cook them up and eat them. I'm thinking Wayno and I might return a bit later with some yabby pots. Might jump in this lagoon, see if we can catch ourselves a bit of a feed of yabbies. There we go, Thai green yabby curry or garlic butter yabby. Making me hungry. Right, we're back. Back at the lagoon, we're going to chuck these pots in, see if we can catch ourselves a yabby. What do you reckon? How long do you reckon we leave them in for?
I reckon leave them in overnight, check them in the morning.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Let them come out tonight for a feed.
Yeah.
We might have some breakfast tomorrow. Well, I won't because I'm allergic to them.
It's always fun when Wayno's allergic to shellfish. It means he catches them and I eat them.
Yeah.
So what are you using in yours?
Well, I didn't bring anything for bait, so I got banana.
Banana?
Banana.
Oh, how do you reckon you're going to go with a banana?
Well, they might be healthy crayfish.
True.
Yabbies.
True. I got the secret weapon here. Where's my... The old tin of sardines. Nice and oily. We'll see if I can get some. See how Wayno's banana goes.
It's a yabby off.
A yabby off.
A yabby off.
Righto, we'll see how we go. We'll go and throw them in over here somewhere. I got a good spot just over here.
Yeah, I'm eyeing off a spot there too. It's probably the same as yours, so I'll just go in between.
Good fellow there. Got one out a little bit more further. Righto. Back to the car.
Wait for them to catch themselves and we get breakfast. Well, you get breakfast.
Yeah, well, come back in the morning and see how we go.
I'll cook it for you.
Sounds good. You got garlic?
Yeah, may have.
Yeah, well, lucky I do. Alright, back in the morning and we'll see what we catch. Till then, ta-ta! So join us next time when we find a small fish.
These look like a little spangled perch.
A small lizard. I have no idea what sort of lizard he is. A not so small tree. A look at this massive big gum tree. And one whopping great view. All coming up in part 2 of our Winging It Way Out West adventure.